Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Desert Solitude. Welcome back to the channel. The past week and a half, I finally built my little outhouse. That's not it. There it is. Hope you liked the video. It was time for my 5-gallon poop bucket to have a home. I picked a site about 15 feet away from the main A-frame cabin. For the design, I wanted to go with something similar style to the main A-frame. So I decided to do my own design and basically do an A-frame with a 2-foot knee wall and just figure it out as I went. And I will say it was a lot of help using a lot of the same building techniques I learned from the main cabin, which was made by Deke at relaxshacks.com. I'll put a link to that main cabin below. I'll also leave a link for Deke Diedrichson's book, Micro Shelters. This is by far my favorite book on making tiny structures. Once the site was cleared out, I found some blocks. I usually like to use castle blocks, but these were free laying on the land. Then I made a 4x8 rectangle using 2x6 pressure treated wood, and at 16 on center, I added the floor joists. I had a 4x8 piece of OSB that I had to cut in half to fit in my car. That was going to be my subfloor. Then I started work on the 2-foot knee wall. This is what the A-frame structure was going to sit on top of to hopefully make some more floor space, since it's only 4x8. And you'll notice that I'm using screws for the framing, which I just recently found out was incorrect. I thought it was just a cost-saving measure to use nails, but they can actually snap under pressure. But this is such a small structure that it didn't bother me, but I just wanted to make sure you don't follow what I do, because I'm not a professional. So then I had the A-frame structure. Then it was a 60-degree angle at the top and a 30-degree angle at the bottom. I cut out a 2x4 notch at the top for the rafter, which was a technique I learned from Deke's transforming A-frame, which I feel like works really well. To attach the wood together, I used 1/2-inch plywood and made 2 gussets, one for each side on the inside. That added a lot of rigidity and kind of keeps the wood in place. Then you can also take a 2x4 and put it across the center, helps picking it up and just keeping everything where it needs to be. For me, I just need it to land directly on top of the knee wall. And then if you're building it solo, a good technique is add another 2x4 and attach it to the brace and the bottom of the structure, and then it could just sit in place while you permanently fasten it. Once both sides were up, it was time to add the roof rafter. For the design, I decided to use the entire 8-foot piece of 2x4, so I had a 2-foot overhang on either side. This would give me some more roofing for rainwater harvesting and solar panels. I just marked 2 feet on the end of each one, and then I just matched it right on the A-frame, so it gave me a nice level structure. Yay. Fairly easily. The purlins, I used 2x3s. Keep in mind this leaves you a little gap in between the roofing, so if you didn't want that gap, add a piece of plywood before you add the purlins, but since I was doing an outhouse, I didn't mind. Next, I started working on the door. I decided to go for a Dutch door because there is an incredible view of the mountains, and I wanted something to look at while I was pooping. So Dutch door it was. I just did a nice little simple Z design to keep the 6-inch pine in place. And to give it that true outhouse look, I worked on making a little crescent moon, which I believe means women's room. I think the star means men's, but it's all for the aesthetics, and I think it looks pretty cool. And luckily this new jigsaw has come in handy so much. I highly recommend getting a jigsaw. They're amazing. I thought about also adding a star, but it seemed too difficult to cut out. So I had my top and bottom for the Dutch door. It ended up being 22 inches across, which seemed like more than enough space. Next, it was time to frame in the wall with the door. I wanted to keep it pretty tight since I wasn't going to be adding any trim. For the top framing, I put my skill saw to 30 degrees to get my angle for the piece above the door, which I ended up reinforcing because I'm not sure exactly how to do it, but it's only landing on about 1.5 inches, so I wanted to make it stronger. And even though I ended up taking the door off, I just wanted to hang it and make sure that everything fit properly, because if I waited, to the end after staining and it didn't fit, that would be a huge bummer. But everything fit nice and snug. Hey, what's up? No, I'm not actually pooping. If you made it this far in the video, please right now click like and subscribe to the channel. It would be amazing if you did. All right, back to it. To finish up the wall, I added 2 studs on either side of the door. I decided, since I wasn't going to insulate, I turned these studs sideways. They were at a 60-degree angle at the top. I figured it just looked a little better and it didn't have, half the wood hanging off the side. But if you were, choosing to insulate, I wouldn't recommend doing that. So then I added some reinforcement above the door to beef it up a little bit. And then it was time to move on to the back wall. And my neighbor gave me this cool little vent. So that was going to be my back little window. And with a little spray paint, it looked as good as new. Really like it. Then I framed the vent in nice and snug and added 2 more studs on the back wall. And keep in mind, I used the vent only because this is an outhouse. It's pretty open air. There's definitely going to be a lot of bugs and spiders that can get in. But, for this build, it's not, I'm not really concerned about it. Then I found some of the Simpson strong ties I meant to add to the rafters and on the A-frames. And to utilize some of the space up high, I put 2 beams across to where I could put some shelving to, have a lot of random storage, bathroom accessories up there. Just a really easy addition before I put on the siding. And this is where I maxed out my credit card, buying these 12x1 slats for the siding. I originally wanted to use old pallet wood, but when I was trying to strip the wood, it just was impossible to get the long, nice pieces that I wanted. And when I saw these, I was like, you know what? I'm only going to build this one time. So just going to go for it. And I'm glad I did, I think. There was a quick little shot a second ago. I took these finishing nails and I put them in between each slat. So there's a tiny, maybe of an 1/8 inch or less gap. I'm hoping that when the wood expands and contracts that it won't bow, because I had that happen with my deck because I had it butted right up against each other. So that's something to keep in mind if you're going to do this type of siding, and especially because the wood's expensive, you don't want to mess it up. Oh, and those are my Indian reservation dog friends. I trade them food for pets. They are amazing. I love them. Now that the siding was up, it was time to put on the roofing. I definitely recommend getting all your siding up before you put on any roofing, because it just makes it a lot easier to trace out the angles. On the one side, I used 2 clear Tough Tex panels, and I live in a pretty remote area. There's no one that's going to want to watch me go to the bathroom, and if they do, more power to them, that's fine. But yeah, and I could also put up a little curtain going across one of the purlins if I had a guest over that was weirded out by that, but it gives it really nice natural light and I love it. So then I had to put on the roof cap. A mistake I made here was I cut it, 8 feet, with the purlins and the roofing. It was a little bit more than 8 feet, so it came up a little short, which bumped me out, but not a huge deal. And I had nothing to land on, so I just had metal on metal, and as long as I was careful with the Tex screws, it wasn't a problem, but I could always add another piece of wood up there if I needed to. Then, I just had my lot of painting, staining, trim work, and then once I had the trim up, it was time to put the door back on. Everything fit again. And then for these, I did a 60-degree angle, and to get it to mate at the bottom, or, to be level, that was like a 30-degree angle, which I was pretty proud of myself that worked. And, less work, just fit perfectly. more Indian reservation dogs that just hang out. They were great. And yeah, everything was really coming together at this point. Now it was time to build my little toilet structure. Originally, I planned on building a bench that spanned the entire width of the cabin, but with the scrap 2x4s I had, it made more sense just to save money and build a little box that would just encompass my little bucket. And I had some nice little gate hardware. And yeah, essentially I just made a little box. The important part was on top was to cut the wood to where you can have a hinge to where I wanted to get in and out to lift out the bucket when I bring the waste to the composting area to make the humanure, which I'll make a whole nother video on the whole composting process. And yeah, as you can see, this isn't like a normal outhouse with a giant hole in the ground. This is going to be a composting toilet. And the tech screws worked perfectly for attaching the toilet. And yeah, a lot of this right here was just using a lot of my scrap wood. I had some scrap metal, threw that on the side. I had some old shiplap that my neighbor gave me. I used that to close it up in the back. I thought of maybe adding some kind of vent, but I did not. And then it was onto the flooring. This is where I did actually get to use old pallet wood.
What are you doing?
I love this guy. I named him Cujo. So yeah, the pallet wood was perfect for the flooring. I went through a couple different variations of what I wanted to do, but I settled on just using the intense teal paint and just giving it a light sand to give it a distressed look. I thrifted this little toilet paper holder that fit perfectly. And then I went over everything and resanded because I had a cheap brush and I wasn't happy with the brush strokes on the inside. But I gave the 2x4 beams, they still have like a distressed look, which I think looks pretty cool. But I didn't want to distress everything because it'd be, a little too over the top. Oh, and I gotta say, this is a very comfy seat with an amazing view. This is how it's gonna lift up, and I'll make a whole nother video, like I said. And I'm experimenting with these wood pellets instead of using sawdust for the composting. It's only $6 for a bag at Home Depot. So yeah, you really can't beat that. And until I finish the sink, this is my simple hand washing solution just right behind the outhouse. A dog bowl, 5-gallon jug with a little $12 pump from Amazon. Works great. The name of this outhouse is Gordon's Outhouse, after my pop Gordon. He would design miniature outhouses and even has them in a couple museums. I loved messing around with them as a kid. Yeah, he was a great guy, and this is just a little ode to him. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please comment, like, subscribe, and there's a ton more videos coming, so stay tuned.